The mayor is just joining us. All right, I'm gonna go live. When you're ready, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Ben. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the North Canton City Council Committee of the Whole meeting, Monday, July 6th, 7 p.m. Ben, would you please call the roll?
President Peters.
Here.
Member Waring.
Here.
Member Stroya.
Here.
Member Revolt.
Here.
Member Sharetta.
Here.
Member Fonte.
Here.
Member Foltz absent.
Motion to excuse.
Second, Waring.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Let's jump right in. First up, Finance and Property. Chairwoman Waring, you are up.
Okay, I'm going to actually let Gina talk about this. I think what's really neat, though, what I have to say that we've been doing and looking at this from the different things, kind of streamline some functions in our finance department, and so I think we're kind of doing that a lot more and looking proactively as opposed to reactively. So I will let you go, Gina.
Okay, thank you. Well, one of the pushes into this digital age even further than what we would like to be is COVID. And so maybe it's, the light at the end of the tunnel, but, or the silver lining on the cloud or whatever they say. But so we've been interviewing and looking at a couple different digital budget softwares, and OpenGov by far exceeds most of them on, it's a cloud-based, so we don't have a server issue. It has a yearly subscription, and it brings together, it modernizes and it streamlines all kinds of, it integrates with our current software, our accounting software. It allows for collaboration. It has a workforce piece where we can model out personnel costs and benefits. It has the publication piece, so our digital budget book will incorporate stories. So there's words to the numbers and they make a lot of sense. And then we can then use them for planning and strategic planning and forecasting going forward. It has a citizen engagement piece to it for transparency. The stories allow for some communication about the numbers in the budget. And it just really brings everything together. So we're really excited about this. And I know the first year we are eligible to use the CARES Act money to pay for it. So it wasn't something that we were budgeted, and that actually is one of the qualifying elements to use CARES Act money for.
That's great.
Wow.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Gina,
Definitely.
how many other entities have this?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of your question.
How many other entities have this?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so he did give us a list. There's lots and lots of government entities. Some of them, I was trying to pull up their list.
Like, do you feel like we're on the cutting edge, or is this something we should have had? Or
well, so I sort of do. OpenGov was the state treasurer's office open checkbook. Do you remember the open checkbook?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can go on the state treasurer's office and pull anybody's checkbook that participates in OpenGov, and they have taken that piece, and their employment base is prior finance municipalities all over the country. So there are people who actually have done this job. They're either city administrators or they have been finance people. They're either in governments or cities or townships or counties all over the United States. So the man who did the presentation was actually from Oregon, but his colleagues were in California and Arizona. And we did ask, where in Ohio can we talk to people here? So the city of Wadsworth currently has this, the city of Upper Arlington, the city of New Albany, and then Hudson is actually using their permitting and code enforcement piece. And that was another great thing about this software is it branches out into many other things that we can bring together in even more strategic ways. So we talked to Hudson about that. And then GFOA, which is where we submit our CAFR for, they measure those based on best practices and performance measurements. they also have a budgeting piece, and the end document of this OpenGov is a publishable document that qualifies for GFOA's budgeting award as well. So those are some of the cities in Ohio. There was a lot more information than that, but
Thank you.
those were a
No,
few.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like personalized services of a specialized nature with peculiar skill and aptitude that permits us to be able to do this without the bidding requirement.
A question for you, Gina. So the public, so we can access this checkbook. We can look at where the money's going. If we wanted to get in there and peek around, we can't manipulate it. We can't change it. We can just view it and print it if we wanted, right?
Correct.
Okay. So is that a public records type thing where if they request a public records, they could just print it at will?
Right.
Basically?
So yes, that's actually one of the benefits is this document will upload our data after we integrate it with our GL, our financial information. It will upgrade and update every night, overnight, if we want it to.
Right.
So it will simply be on the city's website, and it will their stats are it reduces the public records request for this sort of financial data by 20%.
Right. I think that's great. And I think it'd make it easy and more user-friendly to the consumers. So everybody feels we're open and transparent. I think it's a good plan.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's very
Gina,
user-friendly.
I got a question for you too.
Sure.
So this is a yearly. This number here is a year.
So
am I correct with that or what?
It is not. That was the original verbal. We were still in the midst of negotiating and talking with them, and we wanted to get it on the agenda. So they actually finalized their proposal. That is a 5-year plan. Now, after we sent them our chart of accounts and I sent them a few more of the financial information about specifically to the city of North Canton, they true up their offer or their proposal, and it actually came in at $170,000. So I will have to ask you to amend that, but it's over 5 years. So the software is $30,000 a year, and then the first year has an implementation one-time fee. So the first year is just under $50,000. It's $49,975, and then $30,000 each of the next 4 years.
So after that, what do we do, Gina?
So after that, we would have to we could have negotiated a 1 year, a 3 year, or a 5 year agreement, and then we can either continue that. So this subscription is, again, it's a cloud-based. So there are no updates. There are no servers. There's no equipment required, and we don't pay for updates. Every 2 weeks, the software development team sends out updates or, automatically updates their system.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my other question is, sometimes these companies, they give you this deal and then they charge you for the updates and they charge you for every little thing. Is there any other additional costs that they're going to hit us up with during this time?
In the documents that we have, and I still need to forward those to Mr. Fox to review as well before we sign, after council approves. But in the documents that we have, no, this is it. And we will call New Albany and Upper Arlington and Wadsworth and just double check, all of their processes and, hindsights as well.
Good idea. Yep. Good idea.
So this is one other quick question. So the way we've been doing it now, labor intensive record keeping and using other entities to double check things, does that eliminate all that? And does that in the long run save us money or what?
Yeah, so our current budget process is very collaborative, but it's hands-on. So it's a lot of manual input. We use Excel spreadsheets, and we have for years, and they are fabulous, but they are labor intensive. One formula rolls into 19 other pages, and so there's a lot of room for manual error, and this will eliminate all of that.
It'll eliminate the error and make it way more cost effective in the long run.
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, I like the plan.
Hey, Gina, this is Matt. So I'm reading their website is very in depth, but so could we use this to replace current payroll systems or to help payroll systems and also utility billing as well? Or is that just kind of incorporated with what we're using now?
You're right. This system is very expansive. Like I said, they have a permitting department, a code enforcement. They have budgeting, they have financial statements. There's all sorts of online platforms. We're not looking to maybe replace what we have right now with Software Solutions or CMI. This will integrate with that. And as far as payroll, right now we outsource payroll to another company.
Right.
So I'm not sure that we're looking to replace those. This gathers data from all of those platforms, brings them together for one reporting platform.
Great.
So
That's
you'll
awesome.
be able to see a chart and click on the number, and you can drill down in as far as your little heart desires to find out or just look at the chart if you want to just do that. So
Nice. This is a great system.
I'm excited for you to see the demo. I hopefully we'll get one of those up and rolling here soon too.
Cool.
That's great. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, I'll need to put that on the agenda.
All right, and that will be under an emergency as well.
Okay.
Okay, next up, Park and Recreation.
Hey, Jeff,
Oh, yes, sir.
do you want to make sure that it's amended to reflect the 170,000 in committee?
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Oh.
Gerald. The language should say 170.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Gina did mention that, but you're right, we didn't clarify that at the end. So
Yeah,
that will
she
be
did.
170,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, this is Gerald. I've got one more question for you.
Yeah.
As I look at the legislation, it sounds like we're buying software, but are we not buying a subscription? Gina?
Correct.
It is. It's an SaaS. I don't know if you're familiar with IT language.
Software as a service.
Correct. So it truly is a service. It is a software as a service. Exactly. It is a subscription. It is a software. It is a service.
Should the ordinance reflect that? Or no?
No, I think it says what it is.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
I
Well,
think Tina was very clear.
I'm sure it does. And I guess that's my point, is because it says we're buying software. But as we heard, we're buying a subscription that only runs
As
for
a subscription.
years. This is not something that we're buying that's a hard object that we're going to own on our laptop. This goes away in 5 years. And that was my only
Just
question.
use that language that she used.
The SA
Yeah.
software as a
Yeah, just
subscription.
use that. Just use that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just put a line item in that.
Software as subscription.
Yeah.
For digital budgeting software as a service.
There you go.
Hopefully, if we renew in 5 years, if it works great, well, they'll be reasonable on their upgrades and what the cost will be. They'll renew for another 5.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Moving on, Park and Recreation. In lieu of Chairman Foltz not being here, Pat, this was a legislation request from you. Do you want to kind of give us a brief overview on what the thought process is by moving
Yes.
this to the director?
Yes, thank you. As you recall, a couple years ago, we started this review of our processes in how we determine what things cost in the city. And previously, or currently, I should say, the way everything is run is that everything as far as a rental rate runs through the council. And unless the council is willing to adjust this on a regular basis to keep up with the rising costs, it tends to become unworkable. I would say, looking back at the history throughout the city, going back 20 years, throughout that course of time, it hasn't actually worked out well that these things were attended to on a regular basis. So we started making some changes 2 years ago. The first part of that was things that weren't a rental rate were moved from the council side to the administrative side. Various fees, notably the cleaning fees in particular. And what it did is it allowed administration to adjust those cleaning fees as we bid out our cleaning services, and they changed. They were, and so we were changing the rates dynamically for the fees. And I believe that, where we are, today is that we need to do the same kind of thing on the rental rates. Our costs have gone up over the last several years while the rates have stayed the same. What that means is then we dip into the general fund to subsidize these operations. We've thought that this really should be supported by user fees. Those that want to use the park should be able to pay for it. Our fees are our rates are modest because pretty much everything's paid for, but there is maintenance that has to go on. So, whether I was here or someone else is here, I think it makes for a much more dynamic and responsive management of rental rates for the city parks. And, the beauty of it is that if you don't, if I'm not here or if I am here and you don't like the way it's running, council can always take it back. So, nothing's ever permanent. Council has that ability, but I think as I'm looking at it and I see, our cost structure changing and another year going by, we need to be doing something, and I would rather do it dynamically rather than wait every 4 or 5 years to get around to figuring out and just being always behind the curve from day one. That was
Patrick, it's Patrick Dom here. Do you think, like, once you adjust it to what the current market should be, maybe there should be a built-in 2 to 3% a year, 5% a year adjustment, kind of built into it automatically?
I generally don't like to see automatic, cost of living adjustments, because if you look historically at that, over stretches of time, they become very out of whack. A lot of people use that as a means to not have to do the work and look at it. I don't like to see it on automatic pilot, but
okay.
That process is probably better than no process. I would agree with that. But if we have a choice, I always prefer for someone to actively be managing this and looking at it on a regular basis. And who should be doing that? Administration. Do you want them to bring this over all the time, every year for an adjustment, or we just are able to adjust it as needed? With the software that we use, and virtually, say probably 90% now of our rec rentals are coming through use of our software portal, and we would have the ability to just dynamically change it right there as needed.
Well, this spring and summer really is a perfect example of how the demand can fluctuate wildly.
Well, one thing I want to ask about this, because we're the ones that take the heat when things go up. There's no doubt, whether you do it or whoever does it. And the worst thing that could possibly happen is that you raise them and we don't know about it.
Right.
I get that all the time now at the golf course over here. People come over, they walk in my yard, and they tell me, "Can you believe how expensive it is?" Well, I don't know that. How do I know that? And this is the issue I think that we could get into also, is that, if there could be some provision that we need to be informed in some way before all this happens, because, this could just keep going up, and next thing you know, it's, what the hell is city council doing with these rates?
Well, Pat, I agree with what he's saying.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and we certainly, have done, I think, a different, model than that. But to throw out the golf course, I think, not an appropriate comparison, because we know that the golf course was run in a free-for-all manner, and things were given away. Rates were different between people that lived next door to each other. So, I don't, the people that have used that facility in the past have been used to having the taxpayers subsidize its operations for years. And that is not a model
Well-
that we're following. So we're following
that's
one in
not
which
the
it
point,
actually
Pat.
costs
The
things.
point was, Pat, we didn't know about it. We don't know about it.
Just
And
keep
then
us informed.
We should
If
know
I may
about it.
jump in, as the
Yeah.
legislation is currently written, administration is required to tell council 2 weeks before rates become effective.
That's all I need. That's Dominic. That's all I need is just keep me informed.
Mark, is
Thank-
that
thank
applicable to you?
That would be fine, as long as we know about it and it doesn't get out of hand. If we don't know about it, can just sneak up, and then, we're the ones gonna take the heat for it.
Yeah, you get
and
blindsided.
that's
Yeah.
just the way it works. So yeah, as long as we're informed and knowledgeable about it, so if there is something that we feel that it doesn't work, we can at least talk about it. So I'm okay with that.
Me
Tell
too.
you that phone rings nearly nonstop over in administration. It's almost an arm lengths away for Kelly, and then Tracy just passed that, and all day long, everything from what's going on with the restroom over at Dogwood to a storm sewer drain to why aren't we having the fireworks, or so
Mhm.
yeah, there's plenty of calls.
Yeah, I think that, like what Mark's saying is just in general, everything, if we just get blasted the email, it's up to us to read it. And then that way there we're more informed and we look less
Mhm.
broadsided.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if it's in the legislation, that's all I need to know. If it's
Yeah,
part of the
thanks,
whole
guys.
thing.
All right. Any other questions for Patrick regarding this? All right, we will move this forward to the legislative agenda. No emergency requested. All right, next up, water, sewer, and rubbish. Chairman Soretta.
Well, this is, and I'm gonna turn over to Rob. I believe he's still on the line here, but this is a very important issue here about our backflow devices. And or is Pat on, or
Yeah.
Pat, is it you or Rob is gonna run through this?
We'll probably all just jump in,
Okay,
free for
this is a very important issue right here, so I'll let you guys take over.
All right, so.
Rob, you want to start, or Pat?
Go ahead, Patrick.
All right. So one of the things we've been looking at for about a year now is the issue of our backflow prevention device program. Every community that manufactures water, has some sort of backflow prevention measures in place. So probably the easiest one to understand for most lay people would be, those individuals that have a sprinkler system for their yard at their home. We want to make sure that when those devices are used, that the water somehow isn't contaminated and flows back through our pipes and then somehow contaminates the general water supply. So commercial applications have a different backflow device. Obviously, they don't have sprinklers, but that was just to try to give you an example of how it affects residences, but it also affects commercial enterprises. So our program has always been very labor intensive. We had an employee that covered this, and technology has come along such that this process could be automated, and using the cloud, we would be able to capture all the data into our records as to what's happening with these backflow device inspections that take place. So if you have such a device, you have to have it inspected. And every year, the plumber comes out, fills out a piece of paper, sends it to the city. We send it to the plumber fills it out, sends it back, we enter it in, it goes into an Excel spreadsheet, and it's just very 1980s. So the software that we were looking at here allows us to get more real-time data, better testing, and to basically outsource that operation to take advantage of that software as a service. So the cost affiliated with this is borne by the user who has the device. So whether it's a commercial restaurant or whether it's a residence, the cost for that service and all that data analytics that goes with it, and the record keeping, the notices that go out, the notices that come back, the failure reports, all these things that have to happen would be handled by BSI. And the cost of that is $14.95 per inspection. So that's the fee. We don't get that. That's just the cost of using the program. And that makes it so that we don't have to have, like what we did with the previous one with OpenGov.gov. So there's a subscription fee of $495 a year, period. And then this $14.95 that is assessed to the user is collected by the plumber, and the plumber, as part of this program, then remits that to BSI. So when we look at then, well, what other communities are doing, and there are other communities that are using this, though they have an adder that they put onto the bill, just as we do with our water, sewer, rubbish collection billing. We do all the billing for Kimball, but we add $1, I think, or something to it as a billing service, because we handle all the billing and take all the inquiries. So stuff like that would be the situation here, where we could add, up to $2. I think is reasonable, $1 or $2. Those dollars, the $1 or $2, would come into the city. That would be used to pay the $495 annual software as a service fee. And then the balance, Mark Lighthammer, our superintendent of the plant, has indicated that there are some EPA surveying requirements under this program, that those residual funds, the little that there are, would go to cover that EPA cost to us. So all those people that don't have a backflow prevention device, this has no effect on them whatsoever.
Hey, Patrick, question. This is Dom. So for the user, which is our customers, our business people and sprinkler people and whatever, they pay like every year when they do it, was it $125? What is the fee to have the renewal of the permit or whatever? What's the end user cost going up from what it was? Do we know?
$14.95.
What's it currently? Do we know what they're paying currently for the annual check?
Well, that's up to each individual plumber. I mean, the city doesn't get a piece of that.
Do you know what the average cost of that is per?
Of a plumber?
Yeah, like just to have the backflow check.
What's the average cost of a realtor? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it depends, on how many customers I have.
Exactly.
I can tell you it's $80 for our building.
$80. That's why I was curious, because at the end of the day, they're going to complain if they think we're gouging them, which it does sound like we're not doing. We're just having a better tracking system, really.
Well, it's more efficient. I mean, this does the work of more than one person to do it properly. And what we were doing before was, not up to standards in my mind.
Okay.
So, and it's kind of like the other one that you looked at. I'm sorry to go back and forth, but I didn't get to speak on the other one. The work that the other program does is equivalent to like 5 people that you'd have to hire to do that work. Well, we didn't have 5 people to do the work. So that part of the work never got done. Right. And that data analytics is tremendously invaluable. So in this case, there's, a whole series of notification requirements. It's finding out in real time where we are with who has completed a backflow inspection and who hasn't. And then those who haven't, working them through the process where at some point, if they don't comply, then they face a more serious consequence, which is they could lose their water supply.
So Pat, is this like an annual thing? Every year we have to do this?
Every year people have to get their devices inspected.
Okay, got it.
I mean, mine at my
Okay.
house, I think was like $50 or $75. I can't even recall the number, but it was whatever the plumber charged me to come out and do that.
That's because they, I believe they set them up, they clear the lines and so forth for the, for the cold weather. And then when, spring comes around, they set them up again. So there's a disconnect and a reconnect, something along those lines. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's in a perfect world, Tim, that it would go that way, that it would happen exactly like that. But what we find is that, the notices would go out, and then the inspections, the lines should be attended to, certainly into April. But there are people that don't comply.
Sure.
And, it's not an inconsequential number. And then we eventually get it in, July and August. Well, we think that there's a better way.
Sure. And, all it takes is one of those to malfunction, or someone believing that they're just going to do it on their own. And the amount of this public utility that could be, put in jeopardy. And there's nothing like having your water off.
Right.
To recall how many things that you need it for. Cooking, bathing, cleaning, like watering the lawn, all of those things. But you lose that utility, or take it out for the city, and there's quite a few unsatisfied residents.
Yeah.
And at some point, we ever get some opportunity to come up for air, there's other legislation that will come down the pike on backflow devices. And we've been studying Canton and their program, got their rules and regulations, and as it relates to commercial applications for a backflow device, we should have more updated standards as to what type of devices we will allow you to install, because ultimately you're hooking up to our water supply.
Sure.
And putting it at risk. So Canton has done a great job with what they've written up. I have their rules and guidelines on my desk. We're working to adopt various things on that. Rob Graham, Brian Hill, Mark Lighthammer, we've been having committee meetings to see if we can get this thing up and running and more updated. So this is the first part of that, kind of, is just taking us to that next stage. Rob, you want to add some color in here too, or?
No, I think, Patrick, you've really quite eloquently covered it. I guess one thing we could add is that Mark Lighthammer is actually our EPA licensed backflow administrator for the city. So he's ultimately responsible for making sure this program is conducted properly.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, so other cities, I'm not sure what ours is, but if you found that you have had backflow and contaminated, there's a huge fine for that. So this is really protecting those people from having their whatever backflow into and having big issues with costs of that to happen to our city.
Right.
So,
well, absolutely. If you have a business and cross-contamination from an industrial process that get, some processed water that gets sucked back into our system, or biological, just even from the sprinklers, pets out in the yard and the sprinkler goes and then sucks stuff back. So you just, you don't know.
Right.
But
So,
for
as you said,
residents,
go ahead.
no, I was
Tom.
just going to say, so if I'm sprinkling my yard, I don't have a well, I don't have anything but city utility water. I mean, do I have to worry about that backflow issue if I'm just sprinkling my garden or my yard? Is that going to be a problem for me?
If you have a sprinkler system.
Oh, no, I don't. Just, the hose, garden hose.
No, it's not an issue with the garden hose.
Okay, got it.
Anything that could be
Hey, Pat, this is Daryl. Here's where he would have an issue. Let's assume that his water system fails, okay, for whatever reason. All right. He's got a problem between the curb and his house. He goes to his neighbor and he says, hey, I'm out of water. Can I hook up to your house with my hose?
Yeah.
And the problem is that the neighbor is serviced by a well. So the risk is that the well water flowing into the system then ultimately contaminates when he gets his water reset because there's no
I
backflow.
see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now,
And there are people that
not
have both.
likely.
Daryl. Yeah.
Not likely, but it's possible.
Yeah. So anything that can contaminate from an outside source, this could help. And this is the beginning, it sounds like. So I think it streamlines it. I think this is a good thing to start with. This is one of the most important things in our community, and what we have going for us is our water and everything. So I think we need to take all precautions, and this here just kind of streamlines the whole process.
Yeah, it was a good
Any other-
explanation. Good explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, very good, Pat and Rob. And we got enough votes to put it on? Any issues with anybody?
No, it makes sense. It makes good
Is
sense.
this emergency? Is this on? What did I didn't see
No,
it here.
it is
I
not.
didn't think so. Okay. Then we'll just go ahead and put it on if there's nobody else doubting it, and we'll move forward. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Rob.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to amend our agenda this evening to include item 4, which is a professional services contract for construction management.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second, Waring.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Motion carries. Which committee?
This would be under street and alley.
Street and alley?
It was under street and alley last time. This is the contract for construction management out, I think, on East Maple, is it not, Patrick?
Yeah, this is a continuation from last Monday's meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Dom, we're just bringing it back. We need to get, resolution on this. And we thought that in the work that we had done from last week to this week that we, reached, what we think is, more clarity and on the way forward and what we're doing here. But so this will be myself and Rob and Tim, having some discussion here, but just to kind of get it going. So this company, again, what they provide is a service to us, and it's really, construction management service, and it's highly proprietary, highly intellectual, highly specialized in what they do. And we don't have a choice in that we have to have someone that can do this. This is a federal project with federal monies, I should say, East Maple Street, and they want it administered, managed in a certain way. So in order to move that project along, we have to get this in place, and we have to get it in place. And that means, passing it. We're going to ask for it to be done on an emergency because I don't think that we, really are in a position to wait 30 days for the legislation to go into effect. Don't think we need to. I think we're allowed to. But if we don't, then it might be, difficult to get this project off the ground this year, and that could have a disastrous consequence on the grant dollars. So Rob has obviously been in this field for a long time. He knows what the requirements are. He's checked in with the Ohio Department of Transportation, their websites, looking at what it is that this firm does, and there are special rules that are out there that allow us to move forward in the way that we're going to do. So, Rob, I want you to talk a little bit about, again, just for a recap, what this company does, how you've been involved in this. You were with somebody before you were with North Canton. So there's been a process that was followed. You may have come across these guys before. How all did that transpire? And then
Right.
after that, then I think Tim wants to say some things and then ask some questions as well. Go ahead.
Okay, as we talked last week, OmniPro Services would provide our construction inspection and construction management services. With the federal monies, as we talked, we have to do materials tracking, right down to every nut and bolt, no foreign steel, prevailing wage monitoring, interviews, disadvantaged business enterprise tracking, all the stuff that goes with our federal project. That's what this firm specializes in. They're actually doing it now on a purchase order for a Portage repaving. And they did it 2 years ago for us on the very similar but quite smaller West Maple Street project that we did, right outside the Huntington Bank there. Kind of how we selected them is, since it is a professional service, we went through a qualifications-based selection process, or QBS. It's not something that you take bids for. I work with ODOT. Our process is approved by ODOT. We're basically biannually, or every other year, we put a legal ad in the Canton Repository soliciting firms to send us their qualifications for a 2-year period for engineering, surveying, construction management services.
What?
And when we have a project that exceeds $50,000, I pull 3 out of that box of 20 or 30 firms
Show you.
applied and select 3 to give us an enhanced letter of interest or a technical proposal. 3 firms did that this spring. We got those in mid-May, and then went through and scored them and ranked them 1, 2, and 3. OmniPro was selected.
Who helped you with it? Rob, who helped you with that?
The assistant county engineer also took a look at them as well, since they're a stakeholder in the project with their bridge. So they were on board with our selection. We've both used OmniPro on numerous projects. And I guess a big question we had from the legal side is, didn't go through a competitive bid, but in 25 years of being on that consultant side of the fence, you just don't bid professional services. The last thing we want would be a firm to submit a bid with a bunch of college interns out there overseeing our $2 million investment. That's just not what we want. We want an experienced firm. And again, the process we follow is what ODOT asked us to do on projects where they administer that federal monies. That's kind of a history of how we arrived at the OmniPro selection.
Rob, you're in the process of trying to get a grant too. So what's the city's financial obligation out of the $2 million project?
We're roughly 10%, 12%.
It's a big federal project then.
Yeah, ODOT covers 80% of construction and construction management. We've got about 180,000 in municipal road funds. We had asked for maybe 90 to 100, but we're getting 180.
Great.
I don't have that in writing yet, just verbally. And then we would, along with the county on their bridge, pay the rest. So we're getting, quite the project at 10 cents on the dollar, maybe.
So it's like 28,000, or what are you thinking?
No, I think we'd be more like a couple 100,000 by the time
Okay.
it's all said and done. But still, that's 10 cents on the dollar on 2 million.
Got it. That's pretty reasonable.
Yep. And it was all in the budget too. We had it all budgeted for this year.
Yeah.
Rob?
Well, I like
Thanks,
the
Rob.
transparency, how you're explaining it to us, and I'm sure Tim's going to follow up with that. Tim, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. So when we first saw this, Ben and I, of course, it goes through, kind of our mental checklist. And so it set off a little bit of a buzzer for us. So I had checked with Rob because we were over 50 and there wasn't a bid selection. So in our discussion, I think we were the kind of the terms of art that he had mentioned to me caused my research to go towards the design services that that don't require the bidding. And one of the limitations, however, in that section of the code is that because it doesn't require competitive bids, you can't tie an emergency clause to it. However, after speaking additionally on this and further research, it more described what is provided in our charter, is provided in common law in Ohio, and that's personal services of a specialized nature and peculiar skill and aptitude for this type of project. And that's exactly what Rob had described, that essentially they're going to do the necessary, if you will, professional kind of I hate to call it accounting, but essentially it is, but in a different way, where to meet the requirements for this federal grant, there's quite a bit of accounting that is going on for all of these checklists that need to be met. And so we need someone from the start to know what thresholds we need in which areas, and to make sure that those that are doing those tasks are aware of those thresholds and accounting for those in a way that we can submit those to get our grant at the end of the day. So what he's described to me meets that requirement for the personal services of specialized nature, peculiar skill and aptitude. And so with that, it falls right into our charter, into the common law, and we're permitted to do that without bid, as well as with the emergency clause.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Rob, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Welder, do they oversee minorities coverage in this project?
They will, along with, yes, we will work. The goal for the project is 8%.
Okay.
Has to be formed by a disadvantaged business enterprise, a DBE, whether it's minority, female, whatever. And yes, they not only track the amount of work, as does the state, because it's not, I don't want to use the word goal. It's minimum 8%. And there's big consequences if the contractor doesn't meet it. And yes, they track the goal, and then they also go a step further with all the employees, but even more detail to the prevailing wage interviews. They have to talk to each employee on the site numerous times throughout the time that contractor's on the site, and literally, what are the guys making, and then compare that to the federal Davis-Bacon wage rates for the task.
Very fine. Thank you. That answered my question.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, Rob, I'm going to ask this if it has to do with East Maple Street, but this is in no way going to reduce the great aesthetics that you're going to be putting on the walking bridge, the Game of Thrones bridge, right?
That's a question at my pre-construction meeting for our a bridge sub who's very, very good. And what can we do to make it even better than what we have on the plans? And if so,
that's a good
what
idea.
would it cost? And if so, can we use our grant monies for it? So I guess the short answer was yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, yeah. Any other comments, questions regarding this?
Well, I say we move it forward then. It's on an emergency.
That is correct.
And
Okay.
Jeff, could we have that on the Wednesday meeting that you're doing for Gina's stuff?
Yes, I was just getting ready to say that.
Sorry.
No worries. Thank you for the reminder. I need a motion and a second to have a special council meeting this Wednesday. I will have two items. This one and the appropriation that Gina was, Gina, which appropriation is that? I'm losing it here.
That's for the bond
Digital fund.
anticipation notes that are closing on Wednesday.
Okay, yes.
It's
Economic development bonds.
2020.
Yes.
Ben, can you say that again just for the record?
Ordinance 38-2020.
Okay. Okay, so I need a motion and a second for a special council meeting for that.
What time are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking in the morning if we could.
Could we do it at like 8?
That'd be great.
I would be in favor of 8. I could go even earlier. What does everyone else think?
Yeah, anytime for me. Yep, that's good.
Same.
Is everyone good with 8 o'clock Wednesday morning?
8
8 o'clock.
4.
All right, Mr. President.
Yes,
I
sir.
move.
Hey, wait, I'd like clarification again, what's going to be on that agenda? Is it going to
Yes,
be
there
the Open Gov is going to be on that as well, or?
Sounds like that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
I thought
Open
you
Gov.
guys talking about the economic development bonds.
That's
Yeah,
what
we
he was
might as well
talking-
put that on as well.
Yeah, that's
As well.
It's an emergency.
Yeah, let's
Good
do that.
clarification. I thought it was the gov thing. Yeah.
Doing both.
There will be 3 items then.
Thank
All
you.
right, Mr. President, I'm going to move that we meet at 8 a.m. on the morning of July 8th for the consideration of 3 items. Professional services as it relates to the contract for East Maple, an appropriations ordinance 38-2020, and as we discussed this evening, an ordinance for the software subscription, opengov.com.
Okay. Is
Second.
there a second? All in
Warren?
favor? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. And that concludes the agenda. Patrick, there was nothing else you needed, right?
Thank you so much.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, everybody.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion to
moved.
adjourn, Loretta?
Warren, second.
Warren seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Have a great evening, everyone. See you Wednesday
Thank
morning.
you.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.